You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWordsNerds.com. How are you? Hope you are having a truly wonderful week. This week, I wanted to check in with you and talk a little bit about the different currencies that are influenced by marketing. Okay, the different currencies that we can use to make decisions in our business, to make wiser decisions about the types of marketing that we do, and ultimately to make ourselves not just richer, but also happier. And I want to kick this off by stating something that should be obvious, but often isn't, which is that people change. People change, businesses change. This means you change. We all do this thing where whatever the current version of ourselves is, whatever that represents to you, we tend to think of ourselves as a finished product, right? We are ourselves wherever we are in our lives. But if we look back 10 years, we don't think of that person 10 years ago as a finished product in any way. In fact, usually we're pretty embarrassed by the stuff that we did 10 years ago, by the stuff that we thought, by the stuff that we thought would work, by the sort of vast misunderstandings we have about the universe and ourselves and the way the world works. I mean, man, 10 years ago, I was, 32? I was thinking about getting married or just about to get married. I was a very different person, right? No kids. Business was in a very different place. And at the time, despite all these things, despite being very much an unfinished product, at the time, I thought I had things pretty well figured out. And we all tend to do this, right? If you 10 years ago really didn't have everything figured out despite everything that you thought to the contrary, think about yourself 10 years from now. You're likely to have a very different understanding about the way the world works, a very different set of priorities, very different set of things that are important to you. And so it's important to understand that where you're at now is not necessarily where you're always going to be, and that the things that are important to you are going to change over time, okay? Now, the reason I bring this up is that every decision that we make in our business, in our marketing, in our relationships, every decision that we make carries a set of trade-offs. Now, look, you're a real estate investor. You are obviously very used to the idea of trade-offs because you weigh different financial trade-offs every time you think about making a deal, right? Every deal or contract you enter into is going to bring some kind of reward, but it's also going to require some kind of investment, some kind of expense. That could be the money you put into it. It could be the amount of time you're going to have to spend thinking about the deal or handling the rehab or whatever it's going to be. Every single decision we make has a series of trade-offs, okay? And I think most of us get that. But those trade-offs are not always in terms of money. Now, as an investor, and of course, for me too, as a marketer, we are trained to think in terms of money, right? What's the primary metric that everybody measures? It's ROI, return on investment. We're talking about the amount of money we get back based on the amount of money that we put in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But over time, those decisions that you make in your business won't always be best measured in money. For example, Warren Buffett, right, is going to make very different decisions because he is in a certain place in his life and in his business. He's got a certain amount of money. I don't know exactly how much money, but I think he's going to be okay, right? So for Warren Buffett, if I come to him and I say, hey, this deal has a 2x ROI up to $1 million, that might be a total snooze fest for him. That might not be worth the energy to get out of bed in the morning. Whereas for someone like you, that might be a big deal. Wow, 2x ROI up to $1 million, that's a huge deal if you are in a certain place in your business. So not every business decision, not every marketing decision is best measured in money. So what are the other currencies we use to evaluate trade-offs that we make in our business or in our life? The way to remember these, there's an acronym. That acronym is TIMER. TIMER. Timer, like the timer on your watch. Okay. Now, we're going to go through these, and I want you to think as we talk about it, about right now, which of these currencies is most important to you? Because we go through different phases of our life. We go through different phases of our life, even within the course of a week or a year, right? Definitely within the course of a decade. So think about which of these are most important for you right now. Think about which were most important for you, and think about which might be the most important for you moving forward. So let's start at the top. Timer. The first currency, T, is time. Every decision you make in your business is going to take a certain amount of time. Now, even if you are fully systematized and you're like my friend Dan Schwartz or my friend Mike Simmons, these investors who are incredibly good at systems and processes, and they have killer teams, and they're not spending a whole lot of time in their business, even for those people, every decision in their business has a trade-off in terms of time. Because even if you are not the one executing, you're going to have to think about it at least every once in a while. Now, that might be just at the end of the year when you do your taxes. It might be every month when you balance your checkbook or whatever. It might be every day if it's particularly stressful. But everybody's going to have to invest a certain amount of time into a given trade-off. Now, conversely, certain decisions that you make in your business create time, right? You might hire an employee who is incredible, and that person's going to create time in your schedule. So you might be trading money for time in that case. Similarly, if you are getting into a deal and look, you need cash flow. So you're going to put in the time yourself. You're going to handle everything yourself, but you're going to save all those expenses you would have otherwise spent. In that case, you are trading the currency of time for the currency of money. Now, this is really important to understand because many people, as their businesses grow and as their investment businesses grow and they become more successful, they sort of forget that money is no longer the scarcest resource. They continue to trade time for money when in actuality, their time is the thing that they need. The time is the thing that's most valuable to them. Again, this is what we're talking about, how everybody's always changing. And the currencies that are important to us are going to change over time depending on our situation. So that's the first currency, time. Second currency in the acronym TIMER, I, is influence. Influence is a currency. It's a form of power. It's a form of value. If you have the ability to influence your team or the people around you, you can create an incredible amount of value in those people's lives. Or you can use that influence to accrue value into your life. And certain decisions that you make are going to increase or decrease the amount of influence you have. For example, if someone offers you, a seat on the board at this local nonprofit for a cause that's really important to you, you are going to gain in the currency of influence by doing that, but you're going to pay in the currency of time. You see how this works? There's always a trade-off, right? No such thing as a free lunch, as the economists will say. So there are certain situations in which you might be willing or desiring to increase the amount of influence, let's say over someone in your family, a son or a daughter, or a partner, right? And to get that amount of influence, you might have to trade some of the other currencies. You might have to trade money in order to do that, right? Maybe you pay money in order to be part of a mastermind group that's going to give you the skills and the relationships that you need in order to increase your local influence. That's a trade-off. And we've already talked about trading time for influence. Now, conversely, the opposite is also true. I can give up influence in order to acquire time or money, right? If I say, look, I'm not going to join that mastermind. I'm going to value my own time more highly than that, right? I want to free up my schedule. So I'm not going to be on the board of that nonprofit. In that case, what I'm doing is stepping back from engaging with the world around me in order to amass a different set of currencies. And there's nothing wrong with that. Neither of those is right or wrong. All right, like I said, we're always changing over time. What's important is understanding what's important to you right now. So we had time, that was the T. We had influence, which is the I. The M in timer is, of course, money, perhaps the best understood of all the currencies. We're used to thinking of ROI, right? We're used to thinking of return on investment. You're an investor. You are used to putting in $1 and getting out $2. This is essentially your business model. So you understand time. But of course, it's an important currency to understand. And oftentimes it is going to be the most important currency. This happened to me in my business. We went through a period where we grew and we grew and we grew and we grew. And I invested very heavily in my own business, improving my service for my clients, improving the experience that the clients would have. And I created a truly world-class service over at AdWords Nerds. But after a certain point, we sort of hit a bit of a ceiling, and I kept investing and I kept investing, but we were no longer growing. And in that case, if you are investing and you're no longer growing, you are simply eating your own profit margin. And so I had to pull back my investment and instead think about efficiency. Well, that is a form of preferencing money. There were things that I was hiring out that I said, no, we can do this in the team. We can use our time in order to get back some of that money and make sure that we have a profit margin that makes our sort of growth trajectory a safe and stable one. So money is obviously a critical currency as well. So that's time, influence, and money.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords Nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
The fourth currency is energy. The E in timer stands for energy. And you are always going to have some sort of trade-off in energy for the business and personal decisions that you make. Certain things are going to give you energy and certain things are going to cost energy. For example, in that situation we talked about, say, hey, I'm going to preference my own cash flow by doing all the repairs, the rehab work myself. So I'm paying time and I'm getting back money, but I'm also paying energy. I am sacrificing energy, investing it. And that's perfectly okay. That is perfectly okay. But there comes a point in your business where you're going to have too many drains on your energy. And instead, you need to think about, how can I start to get energy back? What kind of tasks are going to give me energy? And am I willing to, for example, invest or sacrifice time or money or influence in order to grow my stock of energy? Now, this is critical to understand because ultimately you, as the investor, you are the real asset. It's not your portfolio. It's you. You are the golden goose, the unicorn, the one that makes the value, the one that gets the machine running. And if you run out of energy, sooner or later, what you will find is that everyone around you will start to lag and will start to drag, and everything will feel difficult, like you're trying to push a boulder uphill. The metaphorical Sisyphean task, right? So we have to make sure that we manage our energy. It is a currency just like money and just like influence and just like time. The final currency that we can use to consider our business and marketing trade-offs, remember timer, the acronym, T for time, I for influence, M for money, E for energy, and finally R for reputation. Reputation. There are things you can do that will save you time and save you money, but will cost you reputation. They will damage your reputation in the long run. Okay. For example, and not even damage. Damage is a bit of a strong word. They will lessen your reputation over time. Let me give you an example. The very first time I got started in business, I was starting as a freelancer doing online marketing. I hadn't decided to work only with real estate investors yet. I was casting about to try to find my thing, my angle, my way in the world. And the very first mentor I ever hired was this guy named Michael Port, who wrote a book called Book Yourself Solid. Wonderful book. Was back in the day where writing a New York Times bestselling book was the thing, right? This was the way. And Michael was an incredible coach, really charismatic guy, had a very straightforward process for finding clients and getting yourself booked solid, as the title would say. And I joined Michael Port's coaching group, and I got a ton of value out of that, met a ton of incredible people. That's really where my business education started. But Michael had a problem in his own business, which was that if you got a copy of Book Yourself Solid, his face was on the cover. If you went on the Book Yourself Solid website, what you found was a giant picture of Michael Port. When you went to a coaching event with the Book Yourself Solid team, Michael Port was the main attraction. He was the one doing most of the education. And so he had created this situation where he was highly influential and he had an incredibly high level reputation and he was making a lot of money, right? But he was spending a lot of energy and he was spending a lot of time. So this is a situation where his business model, high on reputation, high on influence, but required a high investment of time and energy. And so Michael Port needed to find a way to actually lower his reputation because he needed people to be able to come to the business and be happy to receive coaching from other people in the organization that weren't him. Otherwise, he was going to have to spend his own energy and time forever. And while that was great with him in the earlier parts of his business, as he grew as a person and sort of moved on to other professional endeavors, it just wasn't what he wanted anymore. That's such a classic trap that entrepreneurs fall into. Now, similarly, you could do, for example, a type of marketing that would make you a lot of money and might actually save you a lot of time, but would cost you in reputation. For example, if you put up a giant billboard in your town with a giant, obscene pictures and a ton of swear words, you'd probably get a lot of attention. You'd probably get national media attention. You might get links to the website. You could do something totally over the top. But what's that going to do to your reputation locally over time? Is that going to help you or hurt you in the long haul? Now, it's a truism. People always say there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think that's absolute nonsense. Because while there may be no such thing as publicity that doesn't get you attention in the short term, in the long term, reputation takes a lifetime to build. It only takes a few minutes to destroy. And this has been something that I've had to learn in my business too. I've had to learn this as well, right? There are investments that we've made at AdWords Nerds that were, in the short term, damaging to the amount of cash flow and money we had available, that lowered our profit margin. But I knew we had to make those investments in order to get the best possible result for our clients, because ultimately, real estate investing is a small world and reputation is everything. And I used to sort of fight over every nickel and dime until I realized, even when I'm right, the damage to the reputation outweighs the benefit in money saved. And again, no right or wrong. This changes over time. And it might change over the course of a day or a week or a month or a year. But you got to be aware in every single business decision that you make, when you are making these trade-offs, what are the currencies that are most important to you? Because if energy is really important, a little bit of time or influence isn't going to matter much. But if money is what's most important, you might be willing to sacrifice a little reputation or influence in order to get that. Understand your own goals, understand what you are trying to achieve, and you will be able to make incredible trade-offs again and again. So once again, those currencies. Remember the acronym TIMER, TIMER, for time, influence, money, energy, and reputation. As always, this is Daniel Barrett from AdWordsNerds.com. If you need help finding more leads and deals for your real estate investing business online, you know where to go. It is AdWordsNerds.com. And if you could leave us a like or a review on this podcast, it would really mean the world to us. I read every single one, and it helps other people find the show. And I hope you will be back next week. Until then, this is Daniel Barrett signing off. Cheers.
This is the podcastfactory.com.